So thank you for those of you that were able to hop on tonight. And for those of you catching the recording, this is a great recording to have your spouse or your significant other watch, because we're going to talk about basically how I got this guy to be on board, which he honestly always was. But just kind of some tips that we have as far as involving your spouse and getting them on board with whatever it is that you want to do with your business. But first, I want to go over one little business thing, and that is that we are starting Leadership Week next week, which is brand new, and I'm super, super excited about it. It is not a push to any rank kind of group, so it is literally just for anybody who wants to step up as a leader to their team and start learning more about the business, the leadership ladder, how to grow your income more, things like that. And the only requirement for the group is that you've got some Success Club points on the board before we kick off on Monday. So in the next few days here, I'm going to post a link in the team page, and on that, you'll be able to join the group. And if you've got the Success Club points, even you don't have to hit Success Club, but as long as you have a couple of them on the board, we'll go ahead and get you into the group and get you started on that. So look out for that on the team page and make sure that if you're interested in it, you join in. But that being said, we're just going to go ahead and kick off on this call because I don't want to take up too much of people's times tonight. I apologize in advance if Ryan starts getting crazy because his bedtime is not until an hour from now. So he is hopefully going to watch a movie while we do this call. But basically, I wanted to do this call because I've had a lot of people lately talking to me about either their spouse or their significant other not being on board with the business, or if not on board, just not really understanding what this business is, and it kind of being a struggle. And I will say from the get-go, Jeff has been very supportive. He's just that kind of person. That's kind of the way we've always been. It's whatever we decide to do, we talk about it beforehand, and we did talk about coaching beforehand. But then he's been supportive of the business side of things, but that doesn't mean we haven't had struggles with this business, because even now, these tips that we're sharing with you, it's still stuff that we're trying to perfect. It's not easy. It takes constantly working on these things. But from there, I'm just going to put it over to Jeff so we can share a little bit about kind of where it is that we started with this business, how he felt when we first started, and then we'll go into the 5 tips that we have for you tonight.
Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm going to do my best to not ramble, get off subject. For us, we started out, I had no idea what Beachbody was. It was just kind of something that one day Shannon said, I want to be a Beachbody coach. So, of course, what is that? And Shannon had, 3 hours worth of what a Beachbody coach was, which is a huge help. I mean, right away, I was like, sure, absolutely. It's something you can do, I'm right on board with. But having the information that she had, being truthful, telling people, or at least telling me, what it was about, gave me even more confidence, even more than I already had it in Shayna, knowing that, whatever she puts her mind to, she'll do. But giving me an idea of what it is she was getting into and kind of where she was going with everything. Okay, someone's going to join us.
Sorry, guys.
So with that being said, like I said, being honest, being informative, it was definitely helpful. A lot of the spouses, we don't know what you guys are thinking or what you're going through or what it is your goal is, whether you're just being a discount coach, whether you're just trying to make a little bit of money, or whether you're trying to make this, your career and potentially, in our case, have me come home so I can be with the family more. So with that, I mean, pretty much, like I said, just being informative and really just do the research, do the research, and so your spouse feels like you've done the research, you know what you're talking about, you know what you're getting yourself into, and it makes it a lot easier for the support to come. You want to get on the tips now?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to distract him so that he will not be like. So, I mean, that being said, Jeff has always been super, super supportive of this business. But I went into this with the mindset of it has to be a business for me. It has to work because I didn't have the option to not make it work. We were, as you all know, if you've listened to my story at all before, we were broke as a joke. And it was between me going back to work or me doing something like this. And when I brought this up to Jeff, he was supportive because I gave him so much information about this, what this was. So now I just wanted to share the 5 things that we have needed to work on, because as Jeff will tell you later on, I am the kind of person who, when I get into something, I dive all in and I focus in on it. And I spent hours sitting there on my phone, pretty much ignoring him and ignoring Ryan, because I wanted so much for this to grow, and I didn't know how to separate working from home and my work life from the rest of my life. And that is something that we've struggled with, and that's something that is one of these tips here. So the first tip that we have for you guys is communication. And I know this sounds so basic, but there's a few key tips to communication that really help. You can't just say, I'm a Beachbody coach, what don't you understand? I have to be online, I have to do these things. You need to communicate with your spouse, first off, what it is that you actually do. They need to understand, and I say spouse, it can be significant other, whoever it is in your life, but they need to understand what it is to be a Beachbody coach and what that means. They need to know what your goals are with this business. I sit down, I mean, you guys all know, every month I post what my goals are, I ask you guys what yours are. I sit down and I talk to him about what my goals are. I talk to him about my Success Club goals. I talk to him about my recruiting goals. I talk to him about my income goals, because those are things that affect both of us. That's the way that I look at that. I have communicated with him the time that I need to do this business, and we'll go more into that in tip 2, but making sure that they understand that, yes, I do need to take some time away from what it is that we were doing before to do this business, but it will pay off in the long run if I'm able to take that time and actually take focused time. And that is something I struggled with at first, and I think why I was probably on my phone as much as I was, is that I wasn't taking focused time. I was taking 2 hours to send out my 5 invites for the day, because I was all over the place with it, and I was getting distracted with him, and I was feeling guilty about not talking to Jeff, and then I would put my phone down and I'd go back to it, and I put my phone down and go back to it. Whereas if I had just said, you know what, I need 30 minutes to do something really quick, and went and did it, I would have been done, and I wouldn't have been on and off my phone all night. And you need to communicate if you need help. And this is something that I had a really hard time with, because Jeff does work full time. He has a job and he's busy. And I needed to have some time to work on this business as well. And with a toddler, it's now easier because he can kind of entertain himself, and he takes a longer nap in the day, which is great. But when I first started this, Ryan was little and he didn't sleep very well. And when he did sleep, he slept in my arms, which meant that I couldn't get work done then. I needed some time when Jeff got home from work to work on this business. So I had to communicate that with him and tell him, okay, I might need your help making dinner this night, or I might need to get your help with picking up after dinner so that you can put Ryan to bed and I can go get some work done, and just communicating those things. Do you have anything you want to add for communication?
Yeah, I think all the things that she talks about are things where we are at that point now. We definitely were not at that point in the beginning. I would be like, you're just on Facebook for 2 hours. I don't even know what you're doing. Are you just scrolling? Are you, messaging people? What are you doing? So sitting them down, maybe showing, look, this is how I go through this. I have to do these invites. I'm communicating with these people. I'm talking to these people about challenge groups. I'm doing it. Gives your spouse, significant other, a clear idea of what it is you're really doing. So it's not just, are you just scrolling through Facebook? Are you just hanging out on this? Are you just on the phone talking to your friends? Or are you talking business? Because it's those things that add up and takes time away from the family or from whatever you're doing, and it can become hard. But when things are clear and it's more of an understanding of knowing what you're doing, it makes it a lot easier to understand. And being clear about time, I think my biggest pet peeve in the beginning was, I'll just be a minute, and 3 hours later, I would see you. So things like that. I mean, be clear. I mean, if you know a call is going to take 45 minutes, let them know that, so that things are easier, and like she said, communicate what you need help with, because there's no mind readers out there. So definitely where we're at now, but it definitely wasn't where we were. So that takes time too. So that's something else. It will take some time to get used to this. Things adjust too. So adjust accordingly and then communicate that.
Yeah. All right, so our second tip for you guys is to create a schedule. And I know that we've talked about this before. We did the buckets training when we talked about time management and how important it is to create that schedule. But don't just create your schedule, create it with your spouse, and create it every week, because every week your schedule changes. And I'll say this is something that we still struggle with even now. And we notice those weeks that we sit down and we're like, okay, what do we've got this week? I've got my team call on Wednesday, and I have a sneak peek call on Monday night, and he's going for a ride along one night, or whatever it is. When we sit down and we communicate what our schedules are for the week and what we have to do, and then we can kind of be like, okay, and that means that from this time to this time, no phones. We can have family time. I know you're not working. I know you're not busy with something. That is something that is really, the weeks that we actually do that, it is such a game changer. We're both happier. Our son is a lot happier because he kind of can expect that time with us. And it's something that's helped us to not feel like one or the other is neglected. I feel like he doesn't feel like he's neglected when I can communicate what I need time-wise, and we can schedule that ahead of time. And I also feel like I don't feel guilty, because I know that was a huge thing for me, is that I felt a huge amount of guilt when I would say I need to go do some work stuff really quick. I felt guilty because that was taking time away from us spending time as a family, or maybe Jeff and I watching a TV show that we wanted to watch, or my time with Ryan. So scheduling that ahead of time so that they know, okay, yeah, you've got your team call at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, but it's only going to last like 30, 45 minutes. And then from 7 to whenever, it's us time. I'm not on my phone anymore. I'm not working anymore. And scheduling that out ahead of time. Is there anything you wanted to add about it?
I think both of us from the start were like, it's kind of silly to manage your whole day, your whole week. And it was hard at first. But when you really start doing it, you really start realizing you have more time when you do this. We maximize and are much more efficient with our time. We know exactly what we're going to do. I know when I'm going to see her. I know when I get time with my son, just the two of us. I know when we have time together as a family. I know when I have to do work, or when I have to do, what nights I'm making dinner. And you know those things. You're not just sitting on the couch going, where did that last hour go? You have time for that in there. But I think managing your schedule, you'll start realizing I have a lot of time, that I can really get some extra things done. And you really do feel like there's more time in the day, which is something a lot of people, I don't have enough time in the day, is probably something a lot of people say. And I think that this will make you realize that there really is some extra time in the day, but you just got to start working on the schedule.
All right, so tip number 3 for us is to involve your spouse. And I want to preface this with, it depends on your spouse. Not every spouse is going to want to be super involved, and not every spouse is going to want to be completely standoffish in your business. It totally depends on the person. But offer that involvement to your spouse and see where it is that they want to be with this business, how involved they want to be. For me, I talk to him about this business all the time. I bounce ideas off of him all the time because I value his opinion, and I want him to know that he is a part of this too. We both do personal development now. That's something that I started. He thought it was kind of hokey, just like I did when I started my personal development. But once I started talking to him about it, he started listening to personal development in the car and things like that. And that has helped more than obviously just my business, because he's not running the business side of this, but it's helped our relationship. It's helped where we're at with everything as well. And I just feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he probably feels more appreciated having me involve him in it, instead of it just being my thing. It's our business. And that's the way that I look at this, is that it is our business. It's not my business. It's not my team. This is our team and our business. And I feel like involving your spouse or your significant other in that, to the extent that they want to be involved, is really, really helpful.
definitely, I think that was a huge turning point. I think with us was we sat down and we talked about it, and this isn't just your business. This is your spouse's or your significant other's business. This is something that will affect your life almost every minute of the day. And when I started thinking about, this is our business. This is going to be, for our family. It was huge because when I did personal development, I would share what I learned and thought would help. And I mean, that'll lead into some of our next subject, but it really does make it easier, and it gets to the point where she's not just doing this for herself, and that's where even more support comes in, is when you realize that this is, your family's business, that you are a business owner, and I may not be a active partner, but I am a partner in this business, and it's something that makes it a lot easier to come together with.
And I think it kind of goes back to number one of communicating and communicating your goals with this, because I went into this in my head having heard so many people talk about how they've been able to retire their spouses. And that to me sounded awesome. To have Jeff home all the time is like my dream life, because it is so much easier when he is home. And communicating that with him so that he knows that that is a goal of mine, it kind of makes him want to be more active in this, because he wants to be home too. He wants to be home with our son. He wants us to have more family time together. And this is something that can do that for your family if you choose to make it into that. So that is another part of just involving your spouse so that they understand what part they play in this, whether they are actively into this or not. I mean, Jeff and I work out together every morning. This has kind of been our routine. He's in my pictures. He helps me shoot my videos because he is a very active part of my business. But even if they're not going to be an active part of your business, they still have some role to play in this because it is your life. I don't look at being a Beachbody coach as my job per se. It's what I am. It's as much of what I am as me being a mom. I am a Beachbody coach 24/7, and that's something that he needs to be involved with. Okay, so I'll move on to our fourth tip, and that is setting a budget for your business. And this is huge because, one, we all know you've got your Shakeology costs every single month in order to stay as an active coach, and you want to drink it anyway because we all love it. You've got your business fees. But on top of that, in order to grow any business into something huge, you are going to be putting some money back into it. You don't have to put a ton of money into this business to make it huge, which is awesome. You don't have to, if you were to start a brick and mortar business, you'd have to rent a space and you'd have to buy advertising, you'd have to do all of these things. You don't have to do that. But if you want to grow this into something bigger, you are going to put some money into it. You're going to buy your challenge group prizes every month. You're going to eventually start a like page if you haven't already, and probably spend some money on ads or boosting your posts. You're going to spend money on getting a domain name down the road if you decide you want to start a blog or anything like that. There are expenses to this business, and communicating that with your spouse and figuring out what you're both willing to do is really important. For us, like I've said a million times before, we needed this to work for us financially because we could not afford for me to not work. And sitting down and looking at it in the long run, eventually we realized if I were to get a job and have to pay the childcare for Ryan to be with somebody else, it wouldn't be enough take home for us to feel like it was worth it. And I was able to cover my own costs because I pushed to do that. But at the same time, we realized early on, I feel like Jeff was the one that actually brought it up. It wasn't even something I was thinking about, that we needed to put some money into this to grow it to be something that was going to be huge for us. And that was our end goal, was that this was going to be something that was going to be huge for us. So communicating what your budget is with your spouse, whether it's just your Shakeology and your business fees right now, which is fine. That was me for a while. I didn't pay out any extra money for a while there because I couldn't afford to. Or as you get going farther, putting maybe a percentage of something aside to do more with your business, but communicate that with your spouse, because even if you're using your Beachbody money, it's still communal funds. That's the way that I've always looked at it, is what I bring home is for us. It's not for me. It's for us. It's for our family. And just communicating that and setting a budget for your business, which is honestly just smart business practice anyway, because you want to make sure that you're tracking what it is that you're spending, because you need to know, how much am I profiting with this business? Is it something that's working for me, kind of thing. So
yeah, like she said, with the personal development, that's something that I jumped on board with, and I still do, and I actually love doing. But one of the personal developments I listened to was on a group of brothers who was starting a business, and they said they were so successful because they didn't dip into their money like a lot of people do right off. They took a percentage of it and they put that money back in the business. That's how, a lot of successful businesses run. And the biggest eye opener, we went to do our taxes this last year, and we were like, oh, maybe we went a little bit over budget on what we decided to do for extra business expenses. And our financial advisor said, you guys are making a great percentage off of what you put into it. Most businesses, put a lot of money into advertising, marketing, different costs for traveling to events and stuff like that. And that's an opportunity that you have here where you can put some money. You don't have to put a lot. You can put some money and have a great profit based off what you do put into the business. But it definitely does help with the advertising and things like that when you're ready for that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then the fifth and last tip that we have for you, and this one is something I just talked about in the video that I shot for you guys today if you haven't looked at it, but it's treat this like a business. And I know that probably doesn't sound like it's a spouse tip, but it's so true, because the way that I have looked at this from day one, and when I pretty much brought this up to him like a proposal. I was like, I want to be a Beachbody coach, and here's what I know about it, and what questions do you have? Because I'm ready to answer them all. Like, I wanted him to be comfortable with me doing this too. And if you treat this like a business, your spouse or your significant other is eventually going to see this as the business that it is and that it can be for you if you're able to do all of these other things. If you're able to put the time into this business and you're able to create that schedule so that you're able to have that time. If you don't treat it like a business, the way I look at it, it's the same way as I talk about running your social media. When you are a coach, your Facebook page is your business page. It's officially your storefront. And if you're not posting every single day, people aren't going to know what it is you're doing. They're not going to see you. They're not going to build that trust with you on what it is that you're doing. If I didn't work this business every single day, he wouldn't see this as a business. He'd be like, yeah, you're kind of doing this as a hobby, but like, you got to get a job because you need to make money for our family. Like, we can't afford to live off of one income. We just can't. But him seeing how hard I was working at this and that I was treating it like a business and that we talked about it in a business way. We didn't talk about this like, oh, this side gig you're doing or this hobby you've got. We, from day one, talked about this as a business. This is your business. And to me, it doesn't feel like a business. And I don't know how you guys all feel about it. I hope you feel the same way. But to me, I love what I do. And I literally could, and he can attest to this, sit in front of my computer all day working this because I love it. I like to do that. That's not the point of this. I may as well get a 9 to 5 if I do that. But I treated this like a business from day one. And I feel like that has helped, especially over time, build his trust in it because he's seeing that I'm taking this seriously and that I'm taking the steps I need to in order to grow this into what our goals have been for it and what my personal goals have been for it.
I think, yeah, treating it like a business kind of ties all four of the first things in together. In business, you have to have communication. Without the communication, obviously, things go crazy. Your goals, all that stuff, it's all stuff you have to have in a business. Creating schedules, scheduling, and making sure that you set up business hours was something I struggled with at first. That is huge. When I know she's going to work, I don't think about what she's doing. And then if something comes up or whatever, a call, hey, on Tuesday night, I need a call. It makes life a lot easier knowing that that's a business hour, and it just makes, I think, our lives a little easier knowing what we got going on. Personal development. Any business leaders will tell you that they do personal development, and the budget, of course. Budgeting is number one thing in business, So I think all those things kind of tie in, but yeah, if you're doing all those things and you are treating it like a business, then not only is it going to be easier for your spouse, significant other, but I think you'll be more successful in general.
And I think I'm going to say this outright, and I mean, I have before. He's always been very supportive of me and of this business. So I'm very lucky in that aspect. And I know that some people struggle with this at first because this is a leap of faith. It is not a traditional job. It is not something where you're going to be making that hourly wage. It's something that you've got to work at. It's something that you've got to put that time into. But it is something that, and we've realized this over this last year and a half, turns into something that is way more than I could have done outside of the home. And that in just a year and a half is crazy potential if you can communicate that with your spouse and get that person on board with you so that they can see that vision too. I have said it time and time again that I go to him when I'm feeling down. We all struggle with this business, and between him and Andy, my success partner, if you don't have a success partner, get a success partner. But I still have my moments when I'm like, God, am I doing this right? Am I totally failing at this right now? And he talks me up. He helps me get back on track because he knows what my goals are and he knows the potential of this business and what it is that we're striving for and what we've been able to do thus far. And I think that's just super important to involve them in that, to treat this like a business so that they, whoever it is in your life that you want to get on board, gets on board. They have that trust in you because they see that you are doing what it is that you need to do every single day. So those are little tips. I hope this has helped you guys at all. And if you have any questions, I'll go ahead and unmute everybody. And if you've got any questions that you want to ask, if you don't have questions, you can go ahead and mute yourself back. Yeah, what questions, put us on the spot. Do you hear Olivia?
Come here.
All right, no questions. Everybody's always so quiet. Everybody's always so quiet at question time. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, if nobody has any questions, if you guys do have any questions, we are always questions. And now the kids are going to say. But if you guys do have any questions, if your spouse has any questions, kind of Jeff into doing this call, which I'm thankful that he did. But he is such an open person to this that he's more than happy to talk to other spouses too. I mean, he goes to Super Saturday events with me. He's going to be going to Summit, so those of you that are going to Summit, you'll get to meet him. And he's always more than happy to answer any questions that your spouses have or that you have, a way that you can communicate with them. So anyway, I hope this helped you guys. And if you guys have any questions, let us know. Sorry, Ryan. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording before he gets crazy.
Bye.
Bye.